Okay, this is going to sound like a very niche rom-com, but here it is. I went on a charming dinner date and then realized halfway through that the guy knew the exact layout of my apartment, my dog's bad habits, and where I hide the emergency chocolate. He was my dog walker. Yes, truly, I dated my dog walker. You can picture the face I made. I'm Liv, your chronically online host, and if you like stories where chaos politely rings the doorbell and then moves in, you're in the right place. We talk about life, awkward intersections, and the kind of bad decisions that make great podcast episodes. So how did this start? With the usual modern romance formula: a swipe, a gif, a bio that claims loves long walks and indie playlists, which is either poetic or very specific code for I own a scarf. He sent me a dachshund gif. I responded with a picture of my dog mid-judgment. We traded witty nonsense, and then dinner. The restaurant was one of those places where you feel like ordering 2 appetizers just to justify the ambiance. He showed up 5 minutes late with that apologetic smile, and then, with zero warning, knew my dog's name. Cute, right? Until he described how my dog performs a theatrical collapse by the second bench in the park. Curious? Little things piled up, like those silly fortune cookie fortunes you keep for weeks. He knew which route avoids the squirrel that thinks it's a squirrel judge. He knew the mailroom attendant's nickname. He referenced a hallway painting that I'd only ever commented on to my neighbor. And I told myself a very reasonable lie. Either he stalks my social media more aggressively than I do, or he's a dog whisperer disguised as a human. Then came the plant move. Mid-conversation, he leaned over and tucked a sad fern leaf behind the pot like he lived there. He did it with this calm, I'm helping energy. And then, as casually as ordering another drink, he said, "This needs more light. Also, who leaves towels on the couch?" That single gesture is cinematic. I froze. My brain did that slow motion movie thing, pleasant dinner glow, then a weird, terrifying zoom on my throw blanket. I could feel my smile get stuck somewhere between awkward laugh and I need to call someone. We came back to my place for what I optimistically called a nightcap, which in my world meant he sat on the couch and I hovered like the apartment was on alert. He actually picked up my throw blanket. Then he said, "Your coffee table drawer sticks if you push it at an angle." On the outside, I managed a neutral. Oh, weird. On the inside, I was doing detective brain things. My brain went full evidence montage. Venmo, walks plus treats. Calendar reminder, dog sitter handoff at 11 a.m. Ignored text. Hey Liv, quick cue about Bella's harness. Oh, the receipts were lining up like tiny flags making a very small but very loud parade. That was the click. You know that click where you put the last piece in a puzzle and it reveals the embarrassing picture underneath? Imagine that picture wearing a smug hat. I felt my brain flip through a Venn diagram. People I date, people I pay. And in the overlap, there was a sticky note that said, awkward. So I did what any emotionally functional adult does in a sitcom. I confronted him poorly. I laughed too loud and said, "You know a lot about my couch for a first date." He blinked, smiled, and said, "Oh, I volunteer at the animal shelter, and sometimes I walk dogs for extra cash." I heard him, processed it like a spreadsheet, and then went into immediate over-explain mode. I launched into this clumsy saga about hiring neighborhood walkers when I have weird meetings, and trying to be casual, asked, "Do you mean like actually mine?" Which came out as, "Do you do Bella?" And it sounded like poor grammar and worse interrogation energy. He laughed it off and said, "Yeah, sorry, I probably should have mentioned it on my profile." Totally reasonable. Freelancers hustle. But in that moment, I realized I needed a rule. Rule 0. If you've been paid for routine access to my life, please mention that before dessert. Just say it. It saves everyone from plant-tucking awkwardness. We stumbled through the classic awkward negotiation. He apologized, I over-explained my privacy boundaries, and we both agreed that contractor meets romantic interest equals chaos. We ended the night politely. He deleted the awkwardness from his brain, and I deleted him from my scheduling app like he was an unsubscribed newsletter. In the days after, I made actual little rules, because apparently that's how I cope. Rule 1. If you already know where my spare keys are, you're not allowed on the romantic shortlist. Rule 2. If I've paid you in Venmo notes labeled walks and you show up on a dating app, full disclosure before appetizers. Rule 0 gets repeated here because it's the only sentence my future self needs tattooed somewhere sensible. Hot take. Dating people from your everyday life is great. Sometimes the mail carrier is a hero. Sometimes your barista knows your vibe. But when someone's job requires them to be inside your routines, have the conversation early. It's less romantic to learn this during a plant adjustment. Boundaries can be funny and they can be kind. Also, receipts are excellent storytellers. One sentence moral. If you've paid someone for routine access to your life, ask before you date. It's short, it's weirdly practical, and it keeps your ferns from experiencing identity crises. If you have a similar small world disaster where someone's gig collided with your love life in a way that felt like a sitcom, please tell me. Leave a review and tell me your wildest overlap story. I will absolutely read my favorites on the show. If you're shy, DM me. Rule 0 applies to listener submissions too. Receipts encouraged, names anonymized. Stay chaotic, love live. If today's episode made you laugh or feel slightly better about your own life choices, then my job here is officially done. Love, live.